So what is a smart contract? A smart contract is simply software code that is put on the blockchain, and it defines the parameters of an agreement between multiple parties. The cool thing about smart contracts is that they automatically execute and enforce based on these rules being satisfied. So to help explain this, let's talk about it in terms of how a smart contract could be used to buy a car. In today's paper-based world, you've got a buyer and a seller, and there's an intermediary, the dealer, who is involved in facilitating the contract and getting signatures from both sides. And then there's usually a vehicle registration authority that's also involved in ensuring that the title of this vehicle is transferred from the seller to the buyer. So let's talk about it in terms of how a smart contract might be used to kind of change this up. So if someone wants to buy a vehicle in the blockchain world, they would be able to issue a smart contract that says, I would like to buy such and such a vehicle for such and such a price, and here is my wallet ID, or my unique account on the blockchain. From there, a seller would be able to see that, oh, there's a need for that particular vehicle and at a price that I'm willing to pay, and so let me satisfy the other end of that smart contract by providing my wallet address that the blockchain and this smart contract would then validate. Does Bob have enough money to purchase a car from Sally? And does Sally actually have a car to be able to sell to Bob? So the smart contract handles all of the validations that this is a legitimate transaction. At which point, the smart contract not only validates the transfer of the digital ownership from Sally to Bob, but also could move the financial assets from the other party. The smart contract not only moves the vehicle digitally from the seller to the buyer, but also moves the digital currency from the buyer to the seller and represents both of those transactions immutably on the blockchain. From there, the smart contract could also communicate to the registration authority to say the title of this vehicle should also be transferred from the seller to the buyer. So all of these activities that currently are requiring middlemen and intermediaries to facilitate could now be disintermediated, in effect rendering them useless because the smart contract is able to handle all of the paperwork because it's now digital. Beyond the transfer of the asset and the currency between the buyer and the seller, another benefit of using a smart contract on the blockchain to facilitate the buying and selling of a vehicle is that the ownership of that vehicle is immutable. So if someone tried to steal that car and pass it off as his or her own vehicle, someone else could look onto the blockchain and see that this thief actually doesn't own this vehicle, it's actually Bob. So not only is the clearing and settlement automated during this transaction, but the ownership is undisputed.